What if the biggest risk to your financial future isn't failure, but comfort? What if you're not stuck, not unlucky, not overlooked, but quietly attached to being average? Not because you're incapable of more, but because average feels safe, familiar, socially acceptable, and most dangerously, normal. Take a moment and ask yourself something uncomfortable. If you suddenly began outperforming everyone around you financially, would you feel proud or slightly exposed? That hesitation matters more than you think. Average is not an accident. It's a psychological equilibrium. Most people don't consciously choose mediocrity. They drift into it. They calibrate themselves to the social temperature of their environment. Income, lifestyle, ambition, all subtly adjusted to avoid standing too far above or below the group. Because human beings are not wired primarily for wealth. They are wired for belonging, and belonging has a cost. There is a quiet reward system attached to staying average. When you earn roughly what others earn, you feel aligned. When your lifestyle mirrors your peers, you feel integrated. When your ambitions remain moderate, you avoid scrutiny. But the moment you begin to rise, financially, intellectually, strategically, something shifts. Attention increases, expectations rise, comparison intensifies, and with it, discomfort. The brain interprets standing out as risk. Thousands of years ago, isolation from the tribe meant vulnerability. Today, the tribe is social media, colleagues, friends, family, and the threat is not physical, it's psychological. Rejection, envy, judgment. So what does the subconscious do? It regulates you, not to the level of your potential, but to the level of social safety. This is why many people plateau financially right when momentum begins. A promotion opportunity appears. A business begins scaling. Investments start compounding. And instead of accelerating, they hesitate. They downplay. They procrastinate. They make subtle decisions that shrink the trajectory. Not because they lack intelligence, but because expansion threatens equilibrium. Average feels stable, and stability feels intelligent. But there is a difference between stability and stagnation. Stability builds quietly upward. Stagnation disguises itself as stability. And many people confuse the two. They say they value balance, but what they often value is predictability. Predictability reduces anxiety, and anxiety is what growth creates. Let's explore something deeper. Imagine you doubled your income. Would your current friendships feel the same? Would your conversations change? Would your lifestyle create distance? Most people don't fear hard work, they fear social separation. Because money changes power dynamics, it changes perception, it changes the unspoken hierarchy within groups. And humans are extremely sensitive to hierarchy. So instead of risking elevation, they regulate themselves downward. There's also a comfort in shared limitation. Struggle bonds people. Complaining unites them. Mild dissatisfaction becomes a social glue. But ambition disrupts that bond. When you aim higher, you subtly challenge the group's standard. And that creates tension. So you tone it down. Not dramatically, just enough. Just enough to remain relatable. Just enough to remain safe. Over time, this calibration becomes identity. I'm not extreme. I don't need much. I'm realistic. And those statements sound healthy, balanced, even wise. But sometimes they are sophisticated justifications for avoiding discomfort. Because exceptional financial growth requires disproportionate thinking, disproportionate risk tolerance, disproportionate focus, and disproportionate responsibility. Average protects you from those demands. The addiction to average is subtle because it rewards you immediately. You avoid envy. You avoid pressure. You avoid criticism. You remain socially fluent. But the long-term cost is invisible at first. Years pass, inflation rises, opportunities evolve, and while others who tolerated discomfort compound their gains, you remain steady, not collapsing, not advancing, just steady, until steady slowly becomes behind. Another hidden layer of this addiction is comparison. People don't measure success against their potential. They measure it against proximity. If you earn slightly more than your circle, you feel ahead. If you earn slightly less, you feel behind. But rarely does anyone zoom out far enough to measure against what is possible. Because possibility is abstract, proximity is immediate, and the brain prefers immediate metrics. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You may not actually want extraordinary wealth. You may want extraordinary comfort. And those two desires conflict. Extraordinary wealth requires friction. Extraordinary comfort requires equilibrium. You cannot fully pursue both. So most people unconsciously choose comfort and label it contentment. There is nothing wrong with contentment, unless it is masking fear. Notice how society celebrates being normal. Don't stand out too much. Don't be obsessed. Don't be extreme. Balance everything, moderate everything. But financial growth, by nature, is not moderate. It compounds, it accelerates, it requires asymmetry, and asymmetry draws attention, which triggers discomfort. So people slow themselves down to match the rhythm of those around them. And here is where it becomes psychological self-protection. If you never attempt something exceptional, you never risk exceptional failure. Average performance protects the ego. It keeps expectations manageable. It ensures that if things go wrong, they don't go catastrophically wrong. But it also ensures that if things go right, they never go exponentially right either. Average is a hedge against humiliation, but it is also a hedge against greatness. Over time, the addiction deepens. Your spending mirrors your peers. Your investments feel conservative relative to your capacity. Your ambition adjusts to maintain social harmony, and you begin to believe this calibrated version of yourself is authentic. But authenticity is often just repetition. If you repeatedly shrink yourself, shrinking begins to feel natural. And what feels natural feels correct, even when it is limiting. Ask yourself something honestly. If no one would judge you, if no relationship would change, if no one would feel threatened, how ambitious would you truly allow yourself to be? That answer reveals the gap between your social self and your possible self. And that gap is where average lives. This is not about arrogance. It's not about flashy wealth. It's about internal permission. Permission to outgrow the environment that shaped you. Permission to tolerate being misunderstood. Permission to accept temporary isolation in exchange for long-term expansion. Most people never grant themselves that permission because fitting in feels immediate, growth feels distant, and the human brain discounts distant rewards. But here is the long-term consequence. When you suppress your potential repeatedly, a quiet frustration develops. Not dramatic, not explosive, just subtle. A feeling that you could have done more, built more, expanded more. And that feeling accumulates over decades. It becomes regret. Not because you failed, but because you never fully attempted. Average is seductive. It gives you just enough success to feel stable, just enough comfort to feel safe, just enough validation to feel secure, but never enough expansion to feel fulfilled. And fulfillment requires risk, not reckless risk, but psychological risk. The risk of becoming someone your current circle does not yet understand. So the question is not whether you are capable of more. You likely are. The question is whether you are willing to tolerate the social discomfort that comes with more. Because wealth amplifies differences. It makes you visible, and visibility invites evaluation. If that thought makes you uneasy, you've identified the addiction. You are not addicted to laziness. You are not addicted to failure. You are addicted to equilibrium, to staying within the invisible range that feels socially safe. And until you consciously decide that growth matters more than comfort, your financial life will orbit that range, quietly, predictably, average. The danger of being average is not that it looks bad, it looks perfectly fine. The danger is that it slowly distances you from what you were capable of becoming. And one day, when you look back, the discomfort you avoided early on may feel smaller than the potential you never explored. The question is simple. Will you remain socially comfortable or financially expanded? Because you rarely get both. And the longer you wait to decide, the more average begins to feel permanent.